Ladies and gentlemen, hello and welcome to the On the Whistle podcast. We are back with our final WAFCON preview series. Sorry, we're done with the AFCON. We're talking about WAFCON here. Obviously, we're talking about the big hitters. We're talking about the big teams that are favorites for this tournament, and that is the big four in terms of African football over the last 4 years: Zambia, Nigeria, Morocco, and South Africa. But there's a fifth team that that would be incredibly offended if I didn't include them as one of the big hitters, and that is, of course, the Black Queens of Ghana, because they consider themselves, rightly so, as one of the big hitters in women's football in Africa. They've been Nigeria's one of their, if not their greatest competitor over the years, up until a couple AFCONs ago. But they've been on a hiatus. We haven't seen them the last couple of years, but they are back at this tournament, and there's no one better to speak to us than Akosua Adjei. Akosua, how are you doing today? How are you feeling?
Hi, Ali. I'm fine, thank you. Everything is going on, smoothly, pertaining to the WAFCON preparations, and everything is fine, really. We're just getting ready for the day. We can't wait for the tournament to start. Yeah.
Absolutely. And you guys have been waiting for a long, long time because, Ghana haven't qualified for the WAFCON since 2018 when you hosted it and didn't get out of the group stage, and it was kind of seen as a great almost failure, and this big letdown. And then obviously you've missed that window of women's football on the continent just kind of exploding, particularly after the WAFCON. Even the CAF Champions League, that first one, Hasaka's ladies obviously got to the final before losing out. And you've just been on the kind of on the fringes of what has been this amazing explosion, but you're back at the WAFCON. And again, I think it's a reflection on the qualifying process of why you didn't make it. It's not like you weren't one of the best teams on the continent. It's because you had to play the Super Falcons in qualifying. Because obviously for those who don't know, women's AFCON qualifying is regional to a point, and so you can get really unlucky with the draw. Same with Cote d'Ivoire, who have a similarly really strong side. But what is the state of the team? What has been going on in the last few years? Why have Ghana kind of fallen off the wayside of women's football and are no longer seen as the kind of main contenders to the Super Falcons? What's been going on?
Well, thank you very much. One thing I can say is that the Ghana team is currently in a state of rebuilding. From what I can see from the team, from everything the team have been doing, because right after we weren't able to qualify out of the group stage in the women's AFCON we hosted here in Ghana in 2018, it was quite difficult for the team to bounce back from that. And so there had to be some technical changes. The playing body itself had to also change because we had used the same crop of players for a very long time. Yes, they did have the experience, but we needed some kind of fresh legs to add into the team to transition some new players from the under 20s and the under 17s. We have had some successful junior teams where the players were at a level where we could transition them into the senior national team. So it had to take a lot of time and rebuilding. That's exactly what we had under coach Nora Kupla, who took charge of the team after his short stint with the U20 team as the then technical director for the Black Princesses. So when she took over, it was a great rebuilding moment for us because she had the opportunity to come up with what she wanted her vision to be for the team, what she wanted the team to achieve, how she wanted the team to do that, the kind of players she was aiming at using to achieve that, which means that some of the very experienced players were going to have to leave the team, or she wasn't going to be inviting them, um, which was a good decision by the technical director or the coach, that's Nora, to build a new team, which was good. And so we saw the inclusion of players like Stelena Meche coming in, Doris Bojua. We saw all these players coming in, which were very good because these players were coming from Doris, especially. She had just had a very, very good CAF Champions League, Evelyn as well. So they had reached the pinnacle of their career that we knew that if we brought them into the Black Queens, they were going to have um, they were going to play some very good football for us. And so that was the time when Nora still had to do her thing with the team. I mean, she got the opportunity to play all the games she could play to build a team up, to get to know the team, playing against countries like Togo, Benin, playing the qualifiers as well. And she was on a certain trajectory, which was very good, especially because she gave a certain kind of identity to our team. The identity the team got being very sharp in attack and also very compact in defense. Because under Nora, we were known for keeping clean sheets. We were also known for winning games. It was not until our final WAFCON qualifier against Namibia in Namibia, which we lost, and it didn't even mean anything to our qualification process because we had already qualified. So it was understandable that that game they lost in Namibia. And that was the only time where we conceded a goal. Up until that time, then there was the Olympic qualifiers, which we played against Zambia and also conceded some goals as well. So that brought us to a level where we needed to understand that, well, we were used to playing teams like Senegal, Togo, Benin, and we're winning against them, Rwanda. But when it comes to playing against countries like Zambia, we were going to have to step it up a notch a little bit. And that was when exactly what Nora was getting to until she left because she complained about one, the fact that after the Olympic qualifiers, we played a game against Japan, and that was it in 2023. The team did not have any more friendlies to play in all of the FIFA calendar matches that we could have played, which was very frustrating for a coach who was building, for a coach who had reached a level where the team was almost as competitive as Zambia. You would know that you are building to a level where when you go for competitions, you will be very competitive as well. But that was something she wasn't getting the friendly matches. Because when you looked in that calendar year, Zambia were playing so many other matches. South Africa were doing the same. South Africa even went to the World Cup. Zambia went for international tournaments as well, and Nigeria did as well. And they were all getting a number of friendlies apart from the competitive competitions they played, which frustrated Nora the most. And so she had to leave her job, but then we sort of had an inkling that if Nora would ever leave the Black Queens, it would be to go to the Copper Queens of Zambia. Because we saw how the Zambians reacted to her in the final Olympic qualifiers Ghana played against Zambia. You could clearly see that they wanted Bruce Mwepe out and they were ready for whatever it
Hmm.
took to bring Nora on. And so that was when Nora decided to then leave the Queens, go and join the Copper Queens of Zambia. So we needed to bring somebody in if we wanted to go to the WAFCON, if we wanted to compete at the WAFCON. At the time, we still had Coach Samson, we still had Anita, who were then, at the time of Nora, assistant. Lots of us really thought that they were going to bring in Yusuf Basigi, who took the Black Queens to the Women's AFCON in 2016 and won bronze with them. Even though he was now with Simba of Tanzania, he had openly said in an interview that at the time we will be going for the WAFCON, the season would have been over for a while. So he would be able to take the Black Queens to the women's WAFCON if the position was given to him. But then they decided to go in for an expatriate, Kim Björkegren, who had experience in women football from some countries, but most importantly, the recent team he managed was Racing Louisville in the NWSL. So with the kind of experience he was bringing, even though he hadn't necessarily coached any African team, it was going to be difficult. We knew that. So Kim Lasby Okegren then came to take over that position. And I think currently we are just in a moment or a state of rebuilding the team to get us back into a level where we could be very, very competitive.
It's been an exciting journey, and I mean I remember interviewing Coach Nora, about a year ago, maybe a bit more, when he was kind of building up to that mission Volta, kind of building this kind of real sense of progress. I remember, I think it was like her first 9 games, you didn't even concede a goal,
Yeah.
and you're really building towards something. And like you say, you talk about those Olympic qualifiers against Zambia. Zambia obviously went to the Olympics, and we all remember them at the Olympics and da 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 da. But it was Barbara Vanda who scored, what was it, 90? like 6 or 100 minute goal to win
Yeah.
in that second leg in Zambia. You were beating them 3-2. It was going to go to
Yeah.
extra time. So, the Black Queens are almost there in terms of the kind of level. You're competing with Zambia, you're competing with the very best. And it's like you say, it's such a shame that like on that Nora ended up leaving and you haven't had these friendlies and it's kind of stagnated a bit. So, and it's also I find really frustrating because we talk a lot about this WAFCON, but obviously this WAFCON was meant to take place a year ago last summer, and presumably Nora would have been in charge of the Black Queens for that tournament, and now a year later her contract runs out. She decides not to renew it. She goes to Zambia. So suddenly, instead of having this coach who's built this amazing kind of legacy, this structure, like you said, she was a technical director before, so she intimately knows the Ghanaian setup. She really, really knows what's going on. She spends so much time. She's brought in a lot of players who are dual nationals. She has transformed this country's national team, but she doesn't even get to go to the WAFCON, which is for me is so frustrating. I can't imagine how frustrating it is from a Ghanaian perspective. Obviously, we're talking about Kim Björkegren, who's come in, like you've said, he's got a lot of experience. Managed, I think it was Racing Louisville in the
Yeah.
NWSL. He's managed Linköpings in his native Sweden, as well as a few other clubs around the world. So he's certainly got the experience. How do you feel about him? How has he kind of been seen in Ghana? Because obviously this year you have gotten those friendlies and
Yeah.
you've played friendlies against good teams, Morocco, Senegal, Cote d'Ivoire, and then
Nigeria.
obviously just before the AFCONs kicked off, you had that friendly against Nigeria and Casablanca. What is the assessment kind of in Ghana of the job that he's been doing so far?
The acceptance and understanding that this is a very different coach from Nora has not been there, because everything he does is being compared with what Nora Upla did when she was in charge. So in his first game, playing against Morocco, there was so much expectations of the Black Queens, because the last time everybody remembers the Black Queens really playing a competitive game, we played very competitively against Zambia, and until the very end. And so everybody still has in their mind that we have a very good Black Queens team, forgetting that there was a whole year of stagnation of the team where they did not have any games to play. So there are lots of people who compares every little thing he does with Nora. So there are conversations of he's not good enough because in his first game against Morocco, he lost. He's not good enough because he's lost a game against Senegal. He's not good enough because he could not win 2 games against Cote d'Ivoire. But then people do forget that this coach just came in, and once he came in, he had the AFCON, WAFCON looking right at him. That's what he had to prepare for. He didn't have the opportunity to say, okay, this is my mission for the team. This is how I want you to play. This is what I want you to do. He had to zone in and start playing to know his players, start playing against Morocco, start going across, which is very good for him. I mean, he could have been appointed and not even get some friendlies to play, competitive ones to play ahead of the tournament. And so it's been a very difficult position for him, especially in the media, because everything he does is being compared to the fact that under Nora we had an identity. This team plays now when we don't even know the pattern we are playing to, especially in games where we were able to see the last 2 games against Botswana, Benin, and then the game we played against. So we played Malawi, we played Benin, and then we played Nigeria. Those 2 games we were not able to see because they had to play those games behind closed doors. But the one we saw, the 2 games we saw against Cote d'Ivoire, everyone was expecting that Ghana was going to win against Cote d'Ivoire, because when was the last time Cote d'Ivoire really played a competitive game? But then everybody forgot that Cote d'Ivoire now has coach Renard who is a very, very good tactician. The man who led Morocco to their very first WAFCON in a while, a very long while, and brought them straight into the finals. So it was a very, everyone just tends to compare everything that's not Kim does now to what Nora would have done, what Nora could have done, because we are conceding so many goals, we're not playing to any particular pattern, and that really we don't seem to have our head screwed on a particular structure that we're using. So that's becomes very difficult for him.
No, I think it's I think you're spot on in terms of that, is that that's such a harsh assessment of Kim and the job he's done, because obviously Nora had a great start, but she had a great start playing against these smaller teams, playing against teams she could build up confidence against and kind of build up some momentum. Whereas, Kim has had to play against teams like, Senegal, who, let's not forget, they only lost by 1 goal to Morocco at the last WAFCON, and they took Zambia to penalties in that WAFCON. And you played them twice away from home. You beat them once, you lose once. Same with Cote d'Ivoire. Yes, they've not been to the WAFCON for a while, but for the same reason Ghana haven't. They've been playing Cote d'Ivoire, the Super Falcons in qualifying. So it's like, of course they're going to struggle. And like you said, you bring up that they have a top coach in Pedros, and they have Kouassi, they have Ghana, they have these exciting players. Going into this tournament now, I wanna ask you, first of all, let's get into the squad, because obviously people are not going to be as familiar with this squad as we will be with the Zambians, with the Moroccans, with the Nigerians and South Africans. We know that there's a couple big hitters like Princess Marfa, who's in the US, same with Stella and Nyamake. Like these guys, we're more familiar with them. Who are the players that this team is built around? Who are the players that, for those watching the Black Queens for the first time, should be keeping an eye out for?
So we do have some players who play in the NWSL. Stella Nyamiche, who plays for Gotham FC. We have Princess Marfo, who plays for BFC. Unfortunately, these are not players who are the best players in their teams. Unlike when you are looking at Barbara, with where she plays, and you know that this is the NWSL MVP. So you know if she's in a team, she's going to be causing a lot of changes in her team. But for us, our players in the NWSL are not the best players. Uh, they're not the top performers. Let me put it that way. They're not the top performers. And even for Stella, she's still trying to find her feet at BFC. She comes into games here and there. She's not a starter. She's not playing full 90 minutes there. So she's still getting herself used to. Unlike when she was in Ghana, where she was the captain of Dreams FC, where every other game she was playing, and you know that you can count on her for whether goal contributions, whether she's scoring or assisting. And so, but when you look at a player like Doris Boudua, who plays in Israel for Apel, you know that last season she scored more than 20 goals. Clearly, that team have been built to provide her the opportunities to score all those goals. But then in this team, there's Doris Boudua, there's Evelyn Beju, and these are very strong characters that typically, if they are in the team, would want to build your team around them. But then we try to bring in some other players as well. I mean, we've had Priscilla Adjei play some very good football in the past, especially for the Black Princesses before. But then in some of the games that we played her on the wings a lot, and she has lost a bit of her speed that she used to have. Because if you are playing players on the wings, one of the qualities that they should be having is that speed that will be able to cut in and be as sharp. And then there's Priscilla and Adjei. But I believe that from what I have seen in the coaches, how he's been playing the team or how he's been structuring the team in games, looks more like this team is could possibly be playing more around Doris Boudua, Evelyn Beju. These are the top. They will be the top performers. And even though we have some players in the team who have played like AFCONs already. There's Alice Kusi, there's Portia Boachi, who have played almost 3, 4 AFCONs already. So they will come in with lots of experience. We do have in our midfield a very good player like Grace Asantua, who is now playing in Mexico for FC Juarez. She used to play at Betis. Very good, very sharp and compact in midfield. You can count on her when you are in attack. You can also count on her when it's time for players to draw back to defend as well. We've also introduced some two players who had Ghanaian descent but were not necessarily born in Ghana. And so there's Josephine, who has shown that she's a good addition to the team. Chantel even had her debut goal for the Black Queens in the three friendlies that we played ahead of the WAFCON. Chantel Foloka, who is also very good to look forward to. But then in our goalkeeping department, Cynthia has been the go-to girl, even under Nora. So that's a very good pick for the coach. But the Afi, yes, under 20, winning the African Games with the under 20 squad. But then there were a number of people who believed that in the Women's Premier League, she wasn't necessarily the best goalkeeper in the league. So if she was chosen, maybe it should have been an either-or situation between Afi and Kerry, so that we bring one of the other goalkeepers in the Ghana Premier Women's League. Hazake's goalkeeper, Grace Banwa, could have also been a very good choice or good option for us. But then these are some of the players that really could possibly be making the change for the Black Queens this season. There's Doris Bedua, Evelyn Bedu, Grace Asantua, Chantel Oloka, even though she's new. Then there's Josephine Bonsu, who add a lot to the team.
And obviously, the ones I'm more excited to see are Evelyn Badu and Doris Bodua, because they were the ones who were part of that Hasakas ladies team that got to the final of the CAF Champions League. They were so excited. I'd never come across them before that, and was blown away by how good they were. I think particularly Badu, how young she was at that tournament. She was like 18 maybe or 19, and she was tearing it up. It was incredible. And Doris the same age. Looking at the tournament now, you're in a group with Ghana, Mali, and Tanzania. It is a tough group, particularly, we obviously have Banyana are the defending champions. They are the favorites. They are, arguably the strongest team on the continent. And then even Mali, they reached the semifinals, in I think it was 2018. They're a solid team coming back to the tournament. And Tanzania is kind of the up and coming new kids on the block. They have, Clara Luvanga, they have Opa Clement. I think Aisha Masaka has been ruled out of the tournament, but they have this very exciting young group of players. But on the flip side, I think Ghana has got a generous draw in the sense that if you come first, yes, you'll play the third place team from Group A or B. But even if you come second, you're playing second place in Group B, i.e., probably likely Tunisia or Algeria. So suddenly you've actually got a path towards the semifinals. And then who can say the semifinals? So getting in the top two in this group is super important. Whereas, we're recording the Zambia and Morocco previews for them. If they come second, they're playing Nigeria likely, so the stakes are a lot higher for them. So with that in mind, with a kind of clear route to the final, what are the expectations of this team coming into the WAFCON?
So the expectations are that one is the fact that we know that this is not a World Cup qualifying year, which is very good. So when you look at your path and it's very bad or it's very good for you, you still know that in the end it's not a World Cup qualifying year. But then for the Black Queens, it's good we get our opener against South Africa, who are like the favorites in the entire tournament. On the group, they are the best. So once you play against them, if you win, lose, you draw, the others, we are sort of on the same level with them. Mali is returning to the tournament. Tanzania are very fresh and new to the tournament as well, though it's not their first time. They don't have the kind of experience that Ghana has. So if we're able to use the experience and the newness that we have to put that together, it's going to be good for us. However, it's important that the South Africa game is our first game. It's very, very good that that's our very first game. We get that out of the way, and then we know that these are the two games, must-win games that could possibly put us in a very, very good position. But for the expectations for this team, everyone is hoping that 2018 does not repeat itself. Because remember, in 2017, we just won bronze in 2017. coming back into a tournament that you were hosting in your country after every investment that was put in the country from the country to make sure the tournament was hosted, then you fail to qualify from the group. It was very, very disheartening for Ghanaians in 2018. And so a lot of Ghanaians really are looking forward to just seeing the Black Queens move out of the group to get into the knockout stage. For a lot of Ghanaians, that is the expectations from the coach.
No, I think that's fair. And so before I let you go, what I have to hear it. What is your prediction? Where do you think Ghana are gonna reach this tournament? And if Ghana aren't gonna win it, who is for you the favorites to win the tournament?
Listen, I would just hope that Ghana finishes second in the group, meets Algeria, will be able to at least qualify to the semis, really. I would hope and wish for that because these girls have played their hearts out for a very long time for the FA and the government to let them down, for their coach Nora to leave out of frustration. And they have worked themselves so hard for this time, for this moment, and they deserve to be in that at least assembly. But then, listen, I kind of have a soft spot for the Super Falcons of Nigeria. And the fact that they are on Mission X, I just so want them to be able to reach that level, be able to reach that unsurmountable level. And it's just because if we have a country like Nigeria, there are women being able to do that, it gets to a point where you know that um, they can get things they want. They'll be able to push for the NFF to do better for them.
Yeah.
And as they are pushing, it motivates the other countries, it motivates the other girls to also push for what they want. So just because of that reason, that if they are able to attain Mission X, there'll be so much changes, and that change will find its way to trickle down to all the other countries. I really want, and quite apart from the fact that they are like our babies, I just want them to. I just want Nigeria to attain Mission X, honestly.
Fair enough. I'm not gonna lie. I'm surprised to hear a Ghanaian so thoroughly kind of wanting Nigeria to win the competition, but I love to see it. Akosua, thank you so much for coming on the podcast, and hopefully we'll chat to you soon.
Okay, thank you.